Chapter 36. Dr. Odin. Squall knew, even as he was opening his eyes, that he was the last one to return from the dream world. Irvine and Quistis were standing over him. The former grinned as he focused on their faces. "Back from our adventure, Squall?" he asked, smiling. Squall looked away from him, down at Rinoa. She remained right where the two of them landed. No one had bothered to move her. It almost looked like she was asleep. Right there in the crook of his elbow, head resting on his arm. They looked like lovers having fallen asleep in each other's arms. Being careful not to jostle her overly much, Squall got to his feet. He pulled her up gently onto his back, happy to be awake again. Even happier that nothing bad had happened. When he caught up with Elone, he was going to have to talk to her about when the proper time to do this was. If she did that at the wrong time, he might find himself eaten by a monster. "Sis sure knows how to get our attention," Zell laughed. "Hey," Edia pointed to the large tunnel on their left. "There's something coming." Squall looked over. There were two lights coming towards them from the tunnel. Squall recognized that it was a vehicle before it pulled to a stop in front of him. The blue doors opened and a man in a long, flowing robe stood from within. He looked directly at Matron. "Sorceress Edia?" he asked. "Yes," she said, surprised. "How did you know?" "We spotted you coming through the barrier. Why have you come?" She nodded. "We've come to see Dr. Odin." "Please explain what this visit is regarding." "Of course. I want to see Elone," Squall interrupted. He didn't care that it was rude. "Where is she?" The Esthar guy blinked. "Elone." "Squall, calm down," Edia touched his shoulder gently. "Trust me. I haven't forgotten Rinoa. Let me handle this." He hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Edia spoke quickly as she explained why she was here. It still wasn't fast enough for Squall's liking. When she finished, the man nodded. "Very well, I understand. Please, come with me. I'll take you to presidential residence. Dr. Odin will be there." Squall moved first. Setting Rinoa down gently into a window seat, he sat beside her. Only once she was secured did the others follow him in. The Estharian was the last one in. The door shut behind him and he nodded to the driver, who took off back down the tunnel. It was a short tunnel and they came out onto one of the blue roads over the city. The car was fast and the windows offered a marvelous view of the city. Selfie couldn't get enough. She was practically in Irvine's lap, staring out at everything. He didn't really seem to mind. It was quite a distance to the palace, but there was almost no traffic here and the car sped along much faster than Squall would have expected from a personal vehicle. They were only in the car for a few minutes when the man announced, "We'll be arriving at the presidential palace shortly. I hope Dr. Odin will be able to help me," Edia said, letting out a nervous breath. They came around one of the tall buildings and they got their first glimpse of the enormous presidential palace. They didn't recognize it at first. It was such a massive, glorious building that it didn't really register as a building at all at first. It looked like the entirety of the town of Balam could fit inside with room to spare for Dalit. Zell whistled, impressed, as the car aimed towards the structure. "Esthar's president must be a real big shot," Irvine said in awe. The car stopped in front of the palace and the Estharian got out. He waited for them to follow him, then led the way inside. The circular lift inside Squall recognized from the past trip with Laguna. He and the others circled around it, then sat and rode it to the top. There, the Estharian led them to a small meeting room for guests where one of Dr. Odin's assistants was waiting for them. He asked for Edia to explain again what she wanted. She told him as Squall moved over to the sofa in the room. He laid Rinoa gently down on the cushions and adjusted her so she looked comfortable. He really hoped she was. When Edia finished, Squall stood and looked over to her. The assistant was nodding.
I seek the doctor's help, Edia summarized, pleading with him. I wish to be free of sorceress Ultimecia's control. I wish to protect the world. That will be easy.
Odin's voice hadn't changed even slightly in the intervening years since the beginning of the resistance to now. Squall and the others looked to the side door leading to a different room to find Dr. Odin walking out with a small smirk on his face. There was more gray in his hair, more wrinkles on his face. He was still wearing that ridiculous neck ornament thing. How had no one told him how stupid it looked?
We just exorcised the sorceress, he shrugged like it was nothing. There is nothing Odin cannot do.
Edia smiled and nodded to him.
I leave everything in your hands. You said you wished to see Elone.
The Estharian asked Squall, turning attention to him. He nodded.
Where is she? I have to bring Rinoa to her.
The assistant looked back to the doctor, who merely gazed at Squall. Like he might be laughing inside at the request. Stepped up to Odin, Squall's voice was hard as he demanded.
We need to see Elone, now.
Odin disliked him instantly. That look in his eyes. So similar to...
So you will take Odin hostage? You are a fool. I don't care,
Squall growled, hating this man. He had seen what he had done to his sis as a little girl, and now he stood between them. Squall would happily dismantle this palace if it meant he got to see sis.
Just take me to Elone.
Odin and Squall stared each other down. Finally, without looking away, the doctor said to the aide.
Do as he says. I give Z permission. Alert the president to your arrival. Very well,
the aide nodded.
But under one condition.
Odin walked past Squall to where Rinoa was laying.
You must let me observe this girl.
Squall growled. He didn't like that dissecting look in his eyes. Like she was a bug to be studied under a microscope.
Well.
The aide looked at Squall.
We would need time to prepare before we take you to Elone. I assure you, the girl will be perfectly safe with us. I will treat her with the utmost care and ensure her transport myself.
Squall said nothing. He didn't want to leave her.
Accept the offer, Squall,
Edia told him softly but firmly in her best mother voice.
I know how you feel, but this is for the best.
Squall growled and lowered a finger towards the doctor. He growled warningly, the air freezing around him.
You better not do anything to Rinoa.
Odin stared at him. The moisture in the air turned to snow around him, alerting Odin to the GF power he must have. It must have been a very strong one.
We'll take care of her,
the aide promised.
There's nothing to worry about.
Somehow, that wasn't very comforting.
Please, head for Lunar Gate. It is east of the city, just past the lake. I'll send a message ahead alerting them of your arrival and giving them permission for you to leave. You may rent a car at any of the city exits if you wish.
Squall gave Rinoa one last look as he was leaving. Odin was already staring at her, mumbling something to himself. It hurt Squall to leave her behind. He swore if there was a hair out of place when he saw her again, he was going to kill Dr. Odin with his bare hands. The Lunar Gate was a building out in the middle of an empty field. Squall frowned at the sight of it stretching out into the sky. 3 long tubes, curved at the end connecting to a large building. He didn't quite understand what he was looking at. As he stepped out of the rented car, he and the others frowned at the shape of the building, then to each other.
Let's go,
Squall said, before they could start discussing it. Inside the building, there was a young woman in uniform, holding up a portable hollow screen with his face on it from an image taken from one of the palace cameras. It probably would have been his name instead, but no one had asked it. Squall walked up to her and she smiled at him politely.
Greetings, sir. You are the one preparing to leave? Yes, that's me. May I have your name, please? Commander Squall Leonhardt of Balam Garden. Oh, welcome, Commander,
she beamed, lowering her hollow screen.
I wasn't told you were high-ranking personnel. If I had known, I would have met you outside. It's fine,
Squall waved the words away. He hadn't even meant to give her his full title. He was just in the habit of introducing himself that way lately.
This way, please,
she said, indicating in front of herself.
If you need anything, Commander, please let me know. I'll do my best to accommodate you.
Squall fell into step behind her as she came around one of the large barriers separating the aisles in the building. He was looking ahead of her, trying to see where he was going, when a loud barking caught his attention. He turned as the doorman cried out in surprise. Squall stepped back past the others as Angelo came running down the aisle. The dog was coming towards him fast. Squall kneeled down as the fluffy animal stopped in front of him. Whining, the dog looked up at him sadly. Squall gave him a very similar look as he reached out and stroked his head. Angelo's fur was soft and Squall had never known that before because the dog had never let him pet him before. The two of them had been at odds since they had met. But Angelo missed Rinoa as much as he did.
How did he get here?
Quistis asked in surprise.
He must have followed us from garden,
Irvine breathed.
What a loyal little guy.
It'll be okay, Squall told him silently. I'll take care of her. Stay here. He stood and walked away. Angelo watched him go, planting his butt onto the ground. Squall stepped back in front of the woman.
Lead the way, please. Pets aren't supposed to. He's fine. Lead the way.
He must have accidentally sounded threatening because the woman paled slightly. He should probably feel bad, but he didn't at this moment. He didn't want to argue about the dog right now. The dog was well trained and fine where he was.
Of course, sir. I apologize.
Turning quickly, she began walking away. Squall followed after her down a hall and to a room with a large yellow tube against the wall. What was with Esthar and tubes? This one had a blue steel door and steps leading up into it. Standing beside it, a scientist in a long white coat was waiting. He smiled at them.
Are you the ones taking off?
Guess so.
Yes. Great. Come on in. Let me give you the rundown. Distance-wise, it's pretty far, but you'll be there in no time. We've gotten the ETA down to about an hour. A little less if the wind favors us. You'll be there by the time you wake up. Where are we going?
Squall asked, his curiosity finally overcoming his determination. The scientist smiled and pointed up. Squall frowned and followed his finger. His eyes came back as the man beamed.
Let me give you a quick explanation of the whole process. It's very easy, we do all of the work. First, we need you to enter the capsule inside this pipe. Once in there, you'll undergo the cold sleep process. Once this process is complete, which should only take a few seconds, your capsule will be automatically loaded into the booster. We'll keep an eye on your vital signs to make sure everything is going fine, but we haven't had a problem in 15 years. After that, launch. The cold sleep wears off on its own after about an hour and a half, but you'll be woken by the reversal process once you arrive. That's about it in a nutshell. I won't say there isn't risk involved, but people take this trip all the time with minimal side effects or accidents. What do you say? Are you still ready?
Space. They were launching them into space. Squall's jaw tightened and he nodded.
Let's do it.
The scientist nodded.
Very well. We have enough space for 3 people in the launcher. The girl in blue has already undergone cold sleep, though I believe she was already in stasis when it was started. She'll be fine though. She's been loaded in. I assume you'll be going yourself. That leaves 1 more. In the meantime,
Edia spoke up, worried.
Something must be done to suppress my powers. It'd be too dangerous to leave Matron alone,
Quistis agreed.
She has to be watched. For everyone's safety, until Dr. Odin can help her. Then let me be her escort.
Zell said quickly, beseeching Squall with his eyes.
Come on, Commander. What do you say? I can do it.
Squall blinked at him, tilting his head slightly. Trust Zell? As squad leader? That would mean trusting him as the one to act as the official voice in this foreign city. To watch over Matron and be both her protector from everyone and the protector of everyone from her.
Are you sure you can handle it?
Squall asked, his voice completely neutral.
What? You think I can't?
Zell asked loudly, brandishing his fists.
Why? Because I'm a chicken wuss. Let me prove it to you. I'm a seed, just like you are. No, I'm not as good as you, but I earned that title just the same. I, too, would prefer Zell by my side,
Edia said calmly, smiling at her blonde boy.
It would give me a great sense of security. I have no objection to Zell leading the security detail,
Quistis told him, vouching for him.
Me, either.
Selphie beamed, raising her hand.
That's a decision by vote, Squall,
Irvine grinned at him. Squall continued looking at Zell. He saw the determination. The dedication. The weight of what he was volunteering for already weighing on him. He understood and he wanted, more than anything, the chance to prove his leadership skills to Squall. Finally, he was growing up. Squall nodded.
Okay. I'll leave the ground in your hands. OHHH yeah.
Throwing his fist in the air, Zell beamed at Edia.
I'll do whatever it takes to watch over you. Don't worry about a thing. Squall, I got this totally under control.
Don't forget what she is. She's a sorceress. She's dangerous just by virtue of being what she is. Let down your guard and it could be your life. He looked at the last 3 of his friends. He had to pick someone to come with him now. One that he trusted and one he knew had his back. One that he could count on to remain calm and cool no matter the situation. Even one as unfamiliar as outer space.
All right. Irvine, Selfie, you two stay with Zell on guard detail. Quistis, you're with me. Yes, Commander,
she nodded, smiling at him. She knew him very well. She knew what he was telling her without saying a word.
Okay then,
the scientist said over them.
Those who are going, get in. One person per pod, please.
Quistis moved first, walking over to the tube. The capsule opened automatically as she approached, the door lifting up. There was a tightly enclosed space within, designed to hold a person in place while they were unconscious. Quistis turned and placed her back against the soft material. The door shut over her and the pod shot up the tube. The second one came up from underground. Squall stepped up. He turned at the last moment and looked back at the others. They nodded to him. He took a breath and stepped into the capsule. He turned, placing his back against the padding. The door fell over him, pinning him in place between the layers like he was being trapped between the foam of a mattress. All but the window over his face. He could see his friends and matron waving at him. A small beeping started in the capsule as he shot up the tube. He didn't remember what happened after that.
All capsules are in place,
the male on the left of the control panel said, typing away.
Conditions inside the capsules are stable. All bodies are secured. Boosters on standby,
the woman in the middle said, going over the levels on her screen.
Fuel at maximum. All systems are ready for launch.
The third man on the left was doing quick math on his computer.
Launch error correction, +2. Orbital correction, -1. Corrections complete.
The overseer nodded his head.
Final check phase. Clear. 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 All right. Launch.
Like a bullet from a gun, the 3 capsules burst forth out of the long tubes along the lunar gate. So fast and hot they left mirage lines in the air. It almost looked they were aimed at the moon. On the ground, Zell could see the 3 pods shooting through the air from the high windows inside the lobby of the lunar gate. He let out a long breath and genuinely, seriously, hoped that Elone could help Rinoa. For Squall's sake.
Man, I hope everything goes well,
he said, concerned.
I think they're in good hands,
Irvine assured him.
They'll be fine.
Selfie laughed, all positivity and smiles.
Let's pray for their safe return,
Edia smiled at her 3 remaining children.
Shall we go? Dr. Odin wants us at some place called the Sorceress Memorial to start the process of extracting my powers.
Angelo started howling loudly. Jumping in surprise, Zell turned quickly to see Rinoa's dog sprinting out the door.
Hey! Come back!
Selfie yelled at him. This was where Rinoa was going to be returning to when they came down from space.
What's up with him?
Irvine frowned. Zell was shrugging as the building, the very ground, started shaking violently under them. Almost as if Irvine had accidentally cast a quake spell. They all stumbled as people around them fell.
What was that? Let's go outside.
Zell led the way, sprinting out of the lunar gate. The others were right behind him. Zell skidded to a halt though almost as soon as he stepped onto the asphalt. His eyes went wide as he spotted what was shaking the very earth, what Angelo was growling at across the parking lot. It was enormous. It speared so high into the sky that it actually blended into the blue of the atmosphere. It somehow floated in defiance of the enormous weight it must have. It moved slowly along the ground though. A giant wheel spun hypnotically at the base. On the side, emblazoned against the strange stone, was the official seal of Esthar. But judging by everyone's reaction around him, Zell didn't think they knew what it was. The worst part though was that it was so far away that it was just crossing the far barrier and Zell could still see all those details. It was so enormous that Zell could plainly see everything about it. Like it was right in front of him. It filled him with chills.
The hell is that? It's humongous!
He yelled, stepping back slightly. Squall was gone for 30 seconds and Zell already felt like he was losing control.
Hey,
Selphie frowned.
Is this just me, or is the city in that direction? It's flying over the city.
Irvine asked.
Dr. Odin.
Selphie gasped.
He might be in danger.
Irvine nodded, agreeing.
Zell, we had better head for the city at once,
Edia said urgently.
To protect Dr. Odin and try to find out what's going on. All right,
Zell nodded, pointing to the car.
Come on. I'll drive. I remember how to get to Olab,
Selphie beamed.
Kiros led the way when we went there in the dream. I got this. Don't worry about a thing.
Olab was still where it had been almost 20 years ago. Though Selphie had taken a few wrong turns because the roads themselves had changed, she still got them there faster than Zell would have just wandering around aimlessly. The four of them rushed inside, sparing only one glance backwards to where the enormous monolith was starting to cross over the city. Just in front of the door, one of the doctor's assistants was waiting. He looked surprised to see Edia here and not at the memorial she had been ordered to go to.
Sorceress Edia? Are you here to see the doctor? Yes, please. It's rather urgent.
Edia said, wringing her hands slightly. The assistant nodded, agreeing.
Dr. Odin is in a very good mood right now. He hasn't been this cheerful in quite a while. Come on in.
The assistant took them to the lift. Then through the doors into Odin's lab. The old, short scientist was yelling at his other assistant as they came inside. Without anger. He was doing it like he was having the time of his life.
Why is the lunatic Pandora here now? Who is moving that thing? Galbadians, sir,
the assistant said, looking up from his portable hollow screen.
Apparently, they salvaged it. We must sound the alert in the city now. It will not attack us,
Odin assured him, looking away with a smirk.
This city is not the target. I hope so. I hope you're right. Tears point though.
Odin's eyes focused past his thoughts onto the seeds entering his lab. He barely glanced at Edia, but he smiled just a bit late. Just a bit fake.
So, we meet again. This is an exciting day. What's so exciting about this?
Zell asked, shocked.
Galbadia is being crazy again. There's a giant thing out there. Lunatic Pandora. Thank you for naming it for me. That's hardly the point. It's literally making earthquakes right now. And if I know the Galbadian army like do I know the Galbadian army, there too is literally nothing good about that thing.
Odin hummed thoughtfully, stroking his chin.
It has been a long time since I last saw the lunatic Pandora. It was supposed to have been buried for good. That lunatic? Whatever. That big thing. What the hell is that? What the hell is going on? Oh.
Odin smiled at him.
You want to hear my story? That is nice. I would be happy to tell you. I've been investigating the Pandora since it was excavated out of the ground in Centra. It was broken though, old and partially destroyed. So we serviced it.
Zell growled in annoyance. This old man talked so much slower when he was explaining.
And investigated its purpose. I don't care about that.
Zell snapped. Odin frowned at him.
What do you want from me? What's going to happen? What do we do? You? What does this have to do with you? The Galbadians have been our problem for a long time. Just tell us how take it down. That is what I'm about to. Hey, old man. The enemy's common, right? There's no time for you to slowly meander your way through this discussion. We're the best seeds in Balam Garden and there's nothing we can't do. So we'll take care of this problem. Just tell us how to do it. And make it short. Short, eh? Are you sure about that? That is too bad. You are not wrong, Zuff. This could be very unfortunate. You want to go inside to stop it? Then step this way.
Odin stepped back to the side of the room. He gestured to his assistant, who clicked a few buttons on the console. A blue hollow screen appeared above the floor, showing a map of the Esthar continent. A few dots blinked, showing important locations.
This is a map of the Esthar region,
Odin said, sweeping out his arm.
Norse is up there, Sis is this way. Pandora's current location is here.
The large monolith appeared over the map just to the west of the city.
Judging based on anticipated destination, I am confident on saying that this is the Pandora's expected course.
A yellow arrow appeared, sweeping east.
Zoom in map.
The hollow screen obeyed immediately. Now it showed a 3D map of the city. It looked almost like a spider with short legs and a very large abdomen.
Z city has one outer skyway and two main inner skyways. All of them leading to Z palace. Lunatic Pandora will be heading east, from Z vicinity of this lab here towards Z shopping mall here. The estimated time it will take to cross the city is approximated at 20 minutes. Boarding Z Lunatic Pandora is possible at Z following 3 contact points at Z highest points in the city.
The Pandora on the map moved forward, nearly halfway across the city. It stopped there, and a close-up image of that part of the city appeared near the top of the hollow screen.
Z first contact point is at Z center of the city. It will arrive there 5 to 8 minutes after it enters Z city. Z second contact point is a little harder to distinguish. VIII believe it is where the 2 skyways cross near the edge here.
The Pandora moved forward a bit, stopping again as another image appeared.
VIII believe it will arrive there 10 to 15 minutes after it enters Z city. Z third contact point is just north of Z shopping mall. It will arrive there 17 minutes after it enters Z city.
The Pandora moved one last time, stopping at the very edge of the city.
End of debriefing,
Odin said, banishing the map. He looked over to Zell.
What do you think? It is only possible at these 3 points. If you miss it, you won't get another chance. Too difficult for you? Psh, please,
Zell gave him a look as Selfie chuckled.
We're seeds. There's no job too tough for us, old man. If you'll excuse me, you just yapped away a lot of our time. Matron, stay here with the good doctor. We got this covered. I want to talk some more,
Dr. Odin grumbled. Zell wasn't listening. He was already racing for the door. He didn't hear the doctor speak.
The culprit is not Galbadia.
The hardest part about finding the contact point wasn't the time, as it turned out. It was trying to navigate in the huge city that was Esthar. Roads seemed to go in every direction. It was all connected in a circle, so it was easy to get back once they were lost, but that still made finding the correct road to turn off onto incredibly difficult. However, they were seeds. They were good at this. Zell was running along the path of the first contact point even as the enormous lunatic Pandora was slowly crossing through. Slowly because there was no way this enormous monolith had any other speed but slow.
This is it!
Zell yelled, grinning at the hull of the body. He was just trying to figure out how they were going to get in when a door opened in the side right alongside them. Selfie grinned as a red-wearing Superior G officer jumped out onto the skyway, charging at them.
Excuse me.
She laughed, jumping onto his shoulder and vaulting from him into the Pandora.
Pardon,
Irvine pushed him to the side to leap after her.
Thanks, guy.
Zell grabbed his head, leapfrogging over him. He pushed down and forward, sending the Galbadian face planting as he landed into the Pandora.
Nice jump,
Selfie clapped as the three of them ran forward. They reached a flight of stairs and followed it up to a central area where 3 elevators were waiting behind 3 numbered doors. Zell stared around, pondering his choices.
So now what? Start at 1.
Selfie suggested, shrugging.
We're on, who cares how long it takes? Let's just find whoever is controlling this junk, beat him up, and send this thing back to where it came from before they do whatever they're planning with it.
Zell nodded in agreement and the 3 of them ran towards the first in the line of elevators. There was no call button, but the doors opened automatically as they approached. There were also no floor buttons, the elevator just shot upwards after they walked inside.
I'm surprised there aren't more guards,
Irvine frowned.
Yeah. Where are all the soldiers?
Selfie agreed. Zell shrugged.
Let's just focus. We need to prove to Squall that we can handle this without him. I did not fight for this responsibility so I could let him down.
The elevator opened on a long, clear orange tube hall. Zell ran down, looking around in confusion at his surroundings. The tunnel split in 2 but they stayed straight. They would start there and work their way around. They exited the tubes and came out onto an open, metal walkway. Halfway across that was a ladder that led to a platform. Just another thing they would have to check. Zell was going to either need to make a physical map or hope Irvine or Selfie could make a really good mental one. As he was about to ask one of them to start making notes, from directly above them, something came crashing down. Something. Zell didn't really get a good look at it. All he could see was that it was some kind of machine.
The hell is that?
He cried, dropping back with Selfie and Irvine. Shrugging, he figured that it wasn't important. It was a security system. In which case, there was only one thing to do.
No time to be pondering. Let's do it.
Zell, Selfie, and Irvine charged. They only made it a few steps, Then something happened. Zell couldn't even say what it was. He was suddenly just lifted into the air. His body splayed because he couldn't get his limbs under control. Screaming, panicking, Zell tried to at least turn in the air.
My body! I can't move!
Something like electricity shot through them. Then all three of them were shot backwards. Above the tubes they had run to get there. Straight back towards the wall of the Pandora. Selfie screamed as it came closer. At the last second, it opened and the three of them were thrown out onto the skyway north of the shopping mall. Crying out in pain, their bodies bounced along the road. Free from whatever had trapped them, but now out of the Pandora. Groaning in pain, Zell pushed himself up. He could do nothing else but watch as the lunatic Pandora traveled beyond the city. Out of their reach. Growling, Zell slammed his fist to the ground.
Damn it! Kills me to let em go.
Selfie and Irvine helped each other up. All three of them could do nothing but watch as the Pandora moved out towards the lake. Away from the city. To wherever its final resting point was. Now Zell had to go talk to that quack doctor again for more information.
I guess we better fall back for now,
he said to Selfie and Irvine.
We need to talk to Odin. As much as I hate to. We owe Squall an explanation.
Zell, Selfie, and Irvine began running back towards O Lab on the far side of the city. The Pandora continued on unabated. End of chapter.